Hey folks, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to The Human Show. My name is Trish, and I am a mom, a certified adult chair life coach, and an evolving human like you. And my intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by helping to expand the emotional intelligence of as many people as possible. I am here to hold space and share wisdom in support of your personal evolution. I know the path can sometimes be dark, so let's carry a light for each other and find our way. Here we go. Hey, folks. Thanks for being here. Super excited to have a very lovely guest with me to share her story of adversity, what she learned, how she grew, and I'm honored to have her joining me today. So welcome to the show, Cindy Newbond.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So before we jump into the topic, I would love for you to just share something you'd like listeners to know about you today.
Well, I'd like listeners to know that the grief that I have transformed is the gold that I give my clients and actually everybody I come in contact with.
That's awesome. Your grief is the gold. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so you have a pretty amazing story about helping your daughter through something. So could you briefly share the story? I mean, as best you can do in like 5 minutes or so. Just give us an overview of what you moved through.
My daughter was born healthy, happy, thriving. She was in ninth grade at a private Christian school. She was thriving. She was secretary of her class. She was a varsity cheerleader. She played volleyball, varsity volleyball, lots of friends, just a leader. Really, she was such a joy, lots of faith. And we were snowmobiling one night in 2014. She actually had a friend over, and my son had a friend over, and we were waiting our turn to take turns on the snowmobiles, and we were just out there with the stars doing snow angels and having a blast in upstate New York. And the next day she woke up with a flu, just sicker than a dog. And being a nurse for 30 years, I don't just run to the doctor. I wait a few days, and we finally went to the doctor, and then you're through a GI specialist. And, they said, if you do this to her, don't do dairy, don't, no cheese, no yogurt, follow this diet, you'll be better in a few weeks. Well, a few weeks turned into lots of weeks and months. And it was just a nightmare, just chasing diagnoses. And so finally, like about 18 months later, it was her gallbladder, which was a fight in itself because everybody was telling, all the doctors would tell me, it can't be her gallbladder. She's not fat, fertile, and 40. And I just would argue with them and say, well, no, but look at our life these days, right? I was working 60 hours as a nurse. I was volunteering with church and Sunday school and choir. And so, you run from thing to thing to thing. You run through the drive-through and, so she actually would find articles from like scholarly articles for me to give the doctors. And there was one, she had a HIDA scan, which is a gallbladder test. And she found an algorithm that said, if you have pain after it, it's automatic cholecystectomy. So she had pain after her HIDA scan. And once again, the doctors were like, no. And I just would be like, but if it's hyper, doesn't that mean, it was just a constant battle. So like taking her then to another state to get her gallbladder out, and then getting the pathology report that said her gallbladder was bad and sending that to Boston Children's and sending that to her GI doctor here and hearing, oh, we're really sorry, was just grief, the kind of grief that casseroles and sympathy cards just don't cut it. And that was our journey. So finally, I thought that was it, right? It was her gallbladder. And a few months later, we were in the grocery store. I remember exactly in the baking aisle because loved to bake. And she would even get hired to bake for people's weddings. And she used to make these phenomenal candy, instead of gingerbread houses, like chocolate houses, and decorate them. And she would donate them. She's just an amazing kid. So we were in the grocery store and she started getting dizzy. So here we go again. And it ended up being a Lyme diagnosis. So then came all the different controversial treatments. Take one pill and you're cured to ongoing. It was just really tough. And she was actually bedridden for 10 months. She couldn't move her right arm, and she had torticollis so bad that her neck was turned to the right. And it was really a difficult time because there was no support. And if we did have support, it was usually out of state or a Zoom call, or so being a nurse, I'm sure, helped. And what eventually happened was her port became infected. And at this time she was 18. And she told me, I'm not going to go to a hospital and die. I'm going to die at home. And that was in November of 15. And by January, living with this infected port, she decided to go to the hospital. And she was in the hospital and we were leaving. They said we could go home and her neck was still stuck and the infection was cleared. They took the port out. And then on a Saturday night, she asked me to move the balloons that her brother brought her because she was seeing things, and she was seeing things on the blank TV screen. We didn't have the TV on because she was so hearing and light sensitive. So I knew immediately something was wrong. And I called every code in the hospital, and it took me about over from 11 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock the next evening for them to do something. And they finally admitted her to the ICU, and she crashed. She was on a ventilator. She had septic shock. So that in itself is 1 minute you're praying to the urine bag, 1 minute she's not clotting, so they give her vitamin K, and then she's clotting too much, so then they give her, it was just crazy. And, being in the ICU and trying to catch some sleep and then waking, it was really touch and go. Well, she pulled through. It's amazing. But somehow she had a brain injury, which was really tough. They said it was either a lack of something that her brain needed that it didn't get during that 3 weeks on the ventilator, or the infection itself. So they told us that she would be in a nursing home the rest of her life, in diapers. And she is so not. We were in physical rehab for 5 months. And, when she woke up, she couldn't even swallow food for a few days. And this kid just is amazing. She lives on her own. She had to learn to walk, feed herself. And like I said, now she lives alone in her own apartment with some of assisted living. So I can't be more proud of her. She is just an amazing person.
Wow. It's like, it just came out of nowhere, right? So, and it sounds so after her gallbladder was addressed, then it sounds like Lyme disease was the next thing that sort of rocked her world. So that's when a lot of the things started to sort of snowball, right?
Well,
Because of the Lyme disease, then other complications were a result of that.
To what made sense to me is when your immune system is really down after surgery, right? After any surgery, your immune system's down, and then that's when the Lyme came out to play even more so. So,
oh, okay. And then a result of the Lyme disease is when she had the infection and was on the ventilator and one thing after another.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah. Yeah. She lost her ability. I mean, she wasn't in school. She was bedridden. It was really tough.
It's terrifying too when medical professionals are telling you this is what your life, this is your future, nursing home the rest of your life. Like that's really scary. And I think often we, our tendency is to believe them because we're like, oh, well, they're the experts. But at the same time, if you just do that, you're almost giving in to what they've decided is the outcome. And I don't think you really believe that was her outcome because you didn't treat her that way. You didn't treat her like this is over. You treated her like I know I know you can do more. I know you can be more. And you helped her get where she is.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, she made it easy on
Mm,
me. I mean, life just passed her by laying in that bed all those years. I mean, prom, friends fell off. Hearing her brother play basketball in the driveway, me taking him to get his permit. She was the older one.
wow.
So, but it was really her faith, I have to say. She just would lay there and, know she had a purpose and still has. And she'd say, God chose me for this. So she's a pretty amazing woman.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's one of the questions I was going to ask you is because life happens for us, and I was going to ask you how you feel this challenge was for you. And I think it's interesting that you just shared that your daughter knew that this challenge was for her and found purpose in it, which is just incredible and inspiring. And I'm just curious about your take on that for yourself, because the challenge for you was being her caretaker through all of this.
Well, it's easy. Being away from the home, traveling, staying in Ronald McDonald houses, going to the grocery store and seeing how happy families act and live and support each other really showed me how dysfunctional my family was, my immediate family, and also my family of origin. So it just it taught me that I deserve better. And that was the start. I mean, her illness, that was the start of me digging out of this codependent, people pleasing, being told I had no friends and nobody liked me. And if I'd ask a question about financials, it would, a lot of triangulation and gaslighting. So it really taught me to value my life and to look at my life and what had to change immediately, if not sooner.
Yeah, that's so cool that you were able to see, hear, receive this information that was coming through this experience for you. I just think
Yeah,
that's
not
so admirable and inspiring.
thank you. Not as a victim, too. I want to
Sure.
make it clear. My story today is not from coming from a victim, but from an empowering mama bear mother and just a woman that just loves life and loves people and loves relationships. And I was unhappy in all of them for so long. And guess who the common denominator was? Me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being able to look at yourself with loving eyes is just so beautiful, especially when you've been looked down so many. That's your go-to. So
Yeah. Um, yeah. So this, with any kind of major challenge, adversity that we move through, there's a range of emotions that we can go through as part of this. And I feel like yours had just a whole nother layer because as a caretaker, your challenge was helping another navigate their challenges. So it feels like a whole nother level. Anyway, I'm curious if you can remember some ways or tools or anything that sort of helped you navigate this emotional roller coaster.
Well, I wish I knew back then what I knew now. That's for sure. But then again, I don't think I'd be where I am, right? But being my first degree is in mortuary science, so I was a licensed
Mm,
funeral director, and a lot of people ask me, "What made you want to do that?" And the first thing that comes to mind, being so young and moving away from home when I was 21 to pursue that career as a woman back then, too. There weren't many funeral directors that were women. I have to say, it was just the littlest things that you can do for people at that horrible time just really rocked my world. I know that's my purpose in life. And I did get offered a job in Brooklyn, New York, and I didn't want to move further away from home. I really didn't. So I pursued my nursing degree. So I was a pediatric nurse for 30 years in the home, ministering to the whole family. And so I was always a caregiver, I guess is what I'm saying. I heard my neighbor scream for her dog the other day and I ran out there and I'm like, oh, maybe I should get the car, right? It's just innate in me. I act before I even think logistics sometimes. So thinking back then, I mean, I have to lean into my faith again, whatever your word or our listeners' word is for God, source, universe. My word is God. I just leaned into my faith more than my fear. And the key there, I want to say, is I knew God loved her more than I did. So that is what just kept me going through the haze, through the blur of it all. Was just, I would lay down my head at night just for, listening for her. And I just found comfort that he loved her more than I did. And I love her a whole heck of a lot. I love all my kids. So it was pretty incredible.
yeah, that is incredible, powerful. You mentioned a little bit, you touched on this a little bit, and I'm curious to hear a little more about, your support system and how it changed, if at all, from before this happened to during and after. And you touched a little bit on things you sort of learned or that came to light about your family. So what did your support system look like and how did it change throughout this whole journey?
Well, generally, it changed because I stopped chasing those relationships.
Mm,
And to narrow down, I have been estranged several times from my family of origin. So it was nothing new that I remember one day saying to my mom, Mom, I woke up in the Twilight Zone. Like, if you remember that show, like I
mhm.
woke up and my whole world was upside down. And my daughter often said, if I had a cancer diagnosis, she would have been embraced. But because we were in this ambiguous, you're an overachiever, you're an underachiever, it was just crazy making. And unfortunately, like actually both my sisters, older sisters are nurses. But I specifically remember that the hospital gave my daughter, because she was so wanted to get better. She would do anything they said. Drink this soy milk. Don't eat gluten. Do, whatever. Take art class. So she's got her arms propped up and she's painting. She would do anything. She was buying herself clothes. Like she bought herself I have goosebumps. She'd buy herself bathing suits and prom dresses. And because she wanted to get better, she wanted to participate in her life. And So the hospital had her download an app on her phone so that she could specifically put her food in and make sure she was getting enough calories. Because, like I said, she was so smart. She was handing them scholarly articles and teaching them that they felt she was okay to do this. And I was just so proud of her. And when I confided that in my sister, it got all turned around behind my back that she was anorexic and she had this app. She even has an app on her phone to keep track of calories, which was just so not true. And the betrayal there, it still hits me. But like I said, I don't chase those relationships anymore. I've forgiven. I have no judgment. I mean, everybody's got their own journey and their own traumas to live through. However, like I said, I used to think that I would be swinging on a chair playing cards with my sisters. And now I know that's not going to happen. Like later in life when we retired, I used to say, oh, hang out. And now I don't chase that dream anymore. I don't want that dream anymore. They're not, in my opinion, and like I said, it's not from a victim standpoint, it's from an empowering standpoint. I do not want that anymore. They're not safe people. And so once again, this taught me to keep going to those same people. Like, love me. I'm your little, like, love me, accept me, right? Where like you see these sister plaques or these sister poems, and I totally can't relate to that. And now I can say it without that chasing, wanting what's wrong with me energy. I have revamped my whole self-worth, and it's really quite beautiful.
That's like, yeah, I'm really just impressed. And I mean, this just level of self awareness that you've reached through this process is amazing. And your ability to detach from everyone else's stuff, I think, is so important. And to recognize that whatever these people are throwing at you is their own stuff. And I think that's really, really important awareness. And you have that, you developed it, you grew that self awareness that has really served you. Just the fact that you said you're not chasing these relationships anymore, I think is such growth. Yeah. And it's gotta be really kind of liberating, to not be weighed down by your expectations of other people or other people's expectations of you, right?
I used to a trigger could put me in bed for, a bad trigger. And,
Yeah.
you know, why me? What did I do? Well, guess
Hmm.
what, Cindy? You didn't do anything. It is what it is. And
Yeah.
I've accepted that.
And it can be really hard, especially with family, to sort of let go, even if it's just temporarily, of relationships that are not serving you. And I think it's the hardest part is learning what's not serving you, right? Then you can make that decision. So it's really hard with family. You kind of expect that they're always going to be there for you. And it, it might, your relationship could change at some point with them. But right now, it's not a good fit for all of you. And that's important
Exactly.
for everyone to recognize that when it's not a good fit. So, yeah, just really, yeah, really amazing. So, I wanted to ask about your, I'm sorry, there's a spam caller. Oh, I wanted to talk about our sense of identity can change when we move through a major transition. Because, I mean, for a number of reasons, but I think our idea of who we are changes as our life changes, as our support system changes, as our maybe even our purpose and our path. And when we move through a transition like this, we start to see new directions maybe in our path, and it can lead us to redefine ourselves, which is an opportunity. And I'm curious if you can talk about that at all, and if it's something that you noticed about how your sense of self, your sense of identity changed throughout this.
Well, I think why it's hard for people, myself included, to recognize that we're in dysfunction or what's causing it when that's all we've known. So it's so normal. And
Mm-hmm.
like they always say, you marry your mother or father, and people, I'm never going to do that, but it happens. It really does. So I feel like, I was a nurse, I was a funeral director, I was a mother, I was a choir singer, I would teach, I was president of PTO. I was do it all Cindy. I would have these huge, elaborate holiday meals because in my husband's family, ex-husband's family, we were the oldest, so he had younger siblings. So I'd never ask anybody to bring anything or do anything. And then I would just react, right? Wah! So I really became kind of unrecognizable to myself. I was just like, uh, let me see, what did I feel like? Like kind of like a beach ball, like just getting volleyed wherever, like, because I had no boundaries. I didn't know the word no. I just did it all. When my son was born, I took 7 days off from work. 7 days. I mean, that poor baby. Like, because I could do it. I could go back to work. That's how I found my worth, right? It being a great, maybe then you'll love me if I'm the perfect mom or by bringing the money and I did it all. I did it. And I was just so unhappy. I often said I would be dead at 52. I really believed that if I didn't change something. I just couldn't keep going the way I was going. Something had to change, but I didn't know what. I really didn't know how.
Hey folks, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to quickly share some news. I have created a small group coaching adventure to help women who are navigating divorce and breakup. There will be 8 weekly live calls with me. It's going to be transformative, and I am super excited. Doors are opening soon, so check the show notes for info. Okay, back to the show. I love that you said, do it all Cindy. And it sounds like that was sort of your identity. And like you said, you were a beach ball. You just kind of bounced to whoever needed you. Right. It wasn't about you and what you needed. It was about what everyone else needed. And it sounds like that was a big part of your identity. And it's really great to hear you talk about it now, about how much you can see that. Like you can see, it's almost like you're standing outside of yourself.
Right.
And looking at that, you can see all of that.
And I am still the same person. It's just now I can feel deeply without like drowning in it. And I come first.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem saying you have to wait 10 minutes or not at all. And it really comes from this intrinsic love for myself that was truly missing, just missing. When I was growing up, I have to say in the I lost her. The model with the bushy eyebrows. She was beautiful. Oh, I can't think of her name. But anyway, it was like you didn't want to be conceited, right? Like any type of self-love was, well, you're conceited. That's so stuck up. Like that was huge when I was in junior high. And so loving yourself and being brought up Christian, what would Jesus do? Right. But he also turned the other cheek, but he also flipped tables when things were not right. So yeah, I had to flip some tables.
Is it Cindy Crawford you were thinking of?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah. I was trying to picture it.
And the
I know
other
exactly.
one from Blue Lagoon.
Oh, yeah. Blonde, right?
No, brown hair, same kind of. Oh, can I Google it?
Go for it. Yeah. Because now I'm curious.
Me too. There she is. Come on, where's her name? Brooke Shields.
Oh my gosh.
Yay!
Of course. What an icon. How could I not remember Brooke Shields?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was I remember there was one girl in high school that looked so similar to her. She's just beautiful. So we didn't want to be conceited, right? Self-love. And I think it really did a lot of people disservice, really, because then we tend to look outside of ourselves for that validation instead of being able to validate ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a big part of the work we do now is trying to help people break those patterns, right? Because I think, especially as women growing up, we did learn that you don't, if you compliment yourself, if you say anything nice about yourself, if you toot your own horn, so to speak, like you're saying, you were conceited, you were selfish, you were stuck up. And that's what we learned. So we didn't compliment ourselves. Like that's how we grew up.
Look at men too. We'll throw men in here and boys. I mean, boys don't cry when they're crying.
Mm.
I mean, that is the biggest disservice that somebody could tell their son or another man. And back then, I mean, back then, that's what it was. Boys don't cry, toughen up. And now we want them to cry. We want them to be in touch with their feelings. So I feel like this is just such a beautiful time to be alive. And I'm so glad that I made it through the other side. And I actually took my daughter to a healing retreat at Dr. Joe Dispenza's a week-long retreat in Denver. And oh my gosh, she was a trooper. Long days, really long days, 12, 14-hour days, walking meditations. And she usually doesn't walk that much. And she just was such a trooper once again it just shows me how she wants to be healed. She wants to live life. She wants to, it's pretty amazing.
It is. It's so amazing. Oh, before I forget.
Who said that? 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 Who said that?
You have a quote to share.
I do.
All right.
Let me get it. It's actually Paulo Coelho's quote. And it says, when you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself.
Oh, that's such a big one. It's so simple and so powerful.
Exactly. Just a little check-in. Just a little check-in with
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I brought one as well. So I thought this one was appropriate for today's conversation. Once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about. That's from a Japanese author named Haruki Murakami.
I
And
love that.
I thought that
Thank
was
you.
so amazing because it made me think of you because, even talking before the call, saying that a lot of this is a blur, like this experience. I mean, it was quite some time ago, but also it sort of becomes a blur. Like there are parts that you don't remember and you might be like, wow, how did I do that? How did I get through that? Right?
You're absolutely right. So much so that I was nervous about. This is the first time I've ever talked about my daughter publicly or my sisters and my relationship with them as well. So it's time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing it because I think that it's really important for us to tell our stories because there's someone out there who can benefit from hearing them. So I think the more we share, then the more we create opportunities for connection and to help inspire others to open up and share their stories because that's how we start to heal.
Love it.
So we kind of talked about how you're. Oh, this is a good one. I want to ask you. So, are there any ways that you have sort of, since you've become really aware of the growth you've had through this whole journey, and it wasn't all about your daughter. I think it was, you entered into this experience, this challenge, because of what your daughter was experiencing. And then throughout, you start to have sort of your own transition and your own personal growth journey. And, you've mentioned before how how much you've changed. And I guess I'm curious in how, if in any way you have sort of celebrated that growth or reclaimed your narrative. And this may also tie a little bit into that old sense of self, because you do have a new narrative now. So
Totally.
talk about that and how how you do celebrate your growth. Because I think I love to talk about self-celebration and encourage people to do it. So I'd love to hear about your experience with that.
Well, I got to tell you, when my colleagues hear what I've done or what I'm doing, they're like, I can't, like, blown away. So what I've actually started doing is writing down what things I do in a day. Like, I just started a blog in June, and just things like that you think are no big deal. One colleague even was like, how would you even know how to get insurance from New York to Florida? Like, just little things like that. I kind of just now, I just not give myself a pat, but just acknowledge, because I have that critical voice, so critical, so it'll get to be, it's 2:00. What have you done all day? Like, I'll hear it. Like, I can't believe it's 2:00. You didn't, whoa, slow down. And now I can go to that list and say, wow, look at all these things you did. Look who you've helped today. Listen to that feedback from that client. I mean, that session was magical. I got that yesterday. That session was magical. I mean, that in itself, wow. I travel a lot. It's nice having being in charge of my own money now. For a long time, I was not in charge of my own money. I had businesses in my name that I was no part of, corporations, actually. And if I did ask about money, I was like told, well, you're having a bad day. Don't take it on me. Like, when I tried to exert a boundary, but then again, now I would have no problem saying that. Because once again, I feel worthy to ask that question. Back
Mm-hmm.
then, I was really confused with submission in the church and all that. And yeah, and probably a little naive and taken advantage of. And like I said, something desperately had to change in my life. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea of writing things down. And because there are a lot of things we do in a day that we overlook. And they're actually important and significant, whether they helped us or they helped someone else. And I love that idea of sort of reflecting on the day and jotting it down and being like, because I think the visual helps too, to be able to see it like, oh, damn, I did a lot today, right?
Yes. Yes. Especially before you go to sleep at night, like those few minutes to just reflect and have gratitude. Gratitude is an amazing emotion, especially to fall asleep to. Yeah.
Oh, I love that reminder. Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's a great idea to do at the end of the night, to sort of close your day in that energy of gratitude, and gratitude for yourself, right?
Yes.
I
It's
think
not
that's
being stuck up.
exactly. No, self-love is healthy, right? Yeah, thank you for that reminder. So I know you have a lot of things going on. So can you share some of the ways that listeners can find you, some of the ways they can connect with you?
Oh, thank you. Sure. If I resonate with any of your listeners, I can be found at cindydumond.com. I own Don't Despair Coaching. I have a lot of free stuff on my website. It's actually cindydumond.com backslash, not splash. um, So cindydumond.com backslash toolbox. I also have a blog, cindydumond.com backslash blog. And I have an email community. So I love to pour into my community. I don't spam you. So yeah, I just love,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. Yeah,
So people could get on your newsletter and then get some lovely words of wisdom from you.
exactly. Yeah.
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 And
I also have a toolbox with tools on there to use immediately, which is pretty neat. There's a grief guide. And I want to mention too to your listeners that grief is not just about death. And I tell you, if I have one message, that's a big one. Grief is any loss that we're going through, not just death. So yeah, I think that's a big awareness in itself.
yeah,
Grieving is
absolutely.
being sorrowful, even job loss, relationship loss, abortion, lots of different things we grieve and not just death. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that reminder as well. And because I think often with life transitions, we tend to skip over the grief part because a lot of us do associate that with death. And you're right, grief is about loss. And often it's one of the things we lose, no matter what the transition is, the way our life used to be, like the image of what our life was and how we saw things.
or what
All
you
of that
thought it
is,
was going to be, right? Like what you
yeah,
thought it, even when a little girl, what I thought my life was going to be, right?
exactly.
So,
And then that can all just be like shattered
in a second.
in a second. And that is a huge loss. So, yeah, it's super important to recognize that and allow yourself to grieve. I'm sure grief was a big part of your journey with your daughter.
I have to admit it still is at times. I
Mm,
mean, I see, I told you we used to love to bake together and, and it's hard. You see couples out there and, but I acknowledge the feeling, but then I say, thank you for showing me what's possible. And that's the key that gets me out of that. I don't stay there very long, and that's the key too. You don't want to it's called spiritual bypassing. You don't want to hop over that grief, like you had mentioned, but I'll acknowledge it. Like when I see a couple walking or something, I'm like, oh, I wish it was me. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for showing me what's possible. So I think that's a good tool to pull out of your toolbox.
yeah, I love that, just that little tweak in your perspective,
You
because
reframe.
a reframe, because often we'll see something like that someone else has and we don't. And our feeling is, oh, I don't have that.
Lack.
And lack,
And
right.
that
And
makes you
that,
separate from it, right? Then we're separate from it.
yeah, then it's almost like you're pushing yourself further away from that possibility. So I love that reframe of, oh, that's what's possible. That's possible for me. So more of opportunity instead of lack. And
That's a good one for jealousy too. If any of your listeners struggle with jealousy, oh, that car, that scarf, that house, whatever it may be. Thank you for showing me what's possible. It's a great reframe. It's so much healthier than
I
those
love
lower.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple and powerful. Oh, you're also on Instagram, right? I just wanted
Oh,
to
I
mention
am.
that too.
Oh, I'm everywhere.
All the socials? Okay.
Yes, YouTube, LinkedIn,
Okay.
Instagram, and Facebook. All
Okay.
four. Yes.
Perfect. All of this will be in the show notes. I just wanted you to mention it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone before we go?
I think I said pretty much everything that was supposed to come out. So I'm feeling pretty good. How you feeling?
Awesome. I'm feeling great, and I'm feeling super honored that you took the time to spend with me and to share this story about your experience with your daughter. Like, it's really, really meaningful, and I am really, really grateful to you for sharing it with me and allowing me to bring it to more people.
My pleasure. Truly my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. So thank you. Okay, well, that'll do it for today. So for everyone listening or watching, you are enough just as you are, and you are loved. Make a great day. All right, let me stop recording. Hey, before you go, if you enjoy The Human Show, you can help me spread the word by sharing it and leaving a review. Thank you.